Hey guys, we've got a small lens here, so I've got an appropriately small video to cover it. This is the Pergear 25mm 1.8 manual focus lens. This is a lens that's been on my camera probably about 50% of the time during the last month or so of our family's isolation, and I'm excited to share with you both my experiences using it as well as some photos. But before we get into any of that, I do want to thank this video's sponsor, which is me, or more specifically, my photography workshops. If you're interested in jump-starting your photography skills, consider signing up for my 6-week Zero to Hero photography workshop series. This series contains dozens of on-demand video lessons focusing on mastering everything between approaching the scene and pressing the shutter button. And in addition to those lessons, DENAE and I will also provide you with one-on-one feedback on your work. So if that sounds interesting, there are 2 ways that you can get these lessons. The first is to purchase a lifetime access to the course itself at our website at denaeandandrew.com/workshops. But if you'd rather, you can join as a member of this channel now at the student level. We do have a few levels you can check out, but the student level will get you complete access to our courses for as long as you are a student, as well as other courses each month that we're going to add, including my film photography course and a YouTube channel creation course. And we hope that this will be a long-term addition and something to keep you interested for a long time. And by becoming a member, you also gain access to our video calls where we provide additional instruction and photo critiques. So there you go. 2 ways to enjoy some solid photographic instruction, and whichever you choose, I do hope that we'll see you soon and be able to help you on your photo journey in a hands-on way. I'm gonna tell you right now, I had little hopes for this lens. I have no problem trying out cheap lenses because I feel like I can get good results out of just about any lens, and I'm a firm believer that you do not need the best Fuji X glass on the market to get great results if what you're doing isn't going to be analyzed under a microscope, which none of the people watching this video, I'm guessing, will be doing that, unless you yourself own a microscope and love to pixel peep your own work. And if that's you, I'm not here to judge you. There's a lot to be said for shooting with the best gear and feeling good about the fact that if you produce soft results, it's absolutely entirely your own fault and not the fault of the gear. But I digress. This lens that I have here, the Pergear 25mm 1.8, is a great lens. It's solid, extremely small, accordingly lightweight at 195 grams. It's sharp where you hope it will be sharp with a lens like this, and that's near the center at most apertures, pretty sharp at all apertures, but it's soft where you'd fully expect it to be, which is near the edges and corners, until about 5/6 where it sharpens up acceptably well. It's not going to compete with the sharpness of the 23mm 1.4, even at 5/6, but I think you already knew that. Now, when I started shooting with this lens, I fully expected it to be a character lens, or a lens comparable to imperfect Russian vintage lenses that create crazy bokeh or other optical phenomenon that will make photography unpredictable and maybe even interesting in the right situations. But if character lenses is what you want, this might not be the cheap lens that you're looking for. Nothing is super strange or out of ordinary other than some heavy vignetting when shooting at the wider aperture end. And for that reason, I actually found myself using this lens a lot more often than I originally intended. Now, to be clear, everything I'm saying has a lot to do with this lens and this lens only. When you do start to test and see and check out these cheaper or more affordable Chinese lenses, you get a lot of variance, and that is because their tolerances are on the low end of things, meaning you get optical performance all over the map. So if you do get one that is not performing the way that I'm describing, send it back, try another one. Or you may get one that gives you the character that you want. I don't know. I can only speak to this particular lens and my experiences with it. Okay, disclaimer over. But as I was saying, this lens performed adequately, and it wasn't weird or crazy. It did okay. So I chose this lens specifically for the mountain biking outings that we've been doing as a family, and I wanted a lens I didn't care about to accompany me on these, so that in the case of a nasty fall on my small photo bag, there would be fewer tears. And more importantly, I just wanted the smallest lens that I could get for the job, and this lens did the trick. I was able to grab some photos I absolutely love and have zero regrets that they weren't taken on one of my higher end lenses. And in that regard, I'd say that this little lens has earned the right to stick around in my kit for those specific times that I want a lens that I don't care about getting beat up. But as much as I've enjoyed this lens, it hasn't come with without its problems. It's definitely cheap for a reason. And first off, this lens is not a 1.8 lens. This does not allow as much light at 1.8 to the sensor as the 23 1.4 does at 1.8 at all, not even close. In fact, they're comparable about 2.5, 2.8 aperture. That's where this one competes with this one. So, you know, if you're using f-stop or the f number to measure light, it's not a 1.8. Also, and I already mentioned that wide open you get a significant amount of vignetting, and that's to be expected. You can't have a lens this size shooting at the wide apertures and not have the rounded edges gathering light into the sensor at the bent level. You'll get vignetting, and you'll also get plenty of softness. Not a big deal if you stop down or if you don't mind vignetting for like portraits or whatever. Next, this lens has some horrible flaring, resulting in this photo, for example, being completely ruined, which I was sad to see. It really could have benefited from a lens hood, but I've heard that the lens hoods for these are actually back ordered right now, and people are getting the lens without the hoods. I did not get a hood with mine, even though most of the Amazon advertisements for it do show a lens hood. So either way though, you'll want to avoid flaring at all costs with this lens. The next issue I have with it is the clickless aperture. This doesn't bother me all that much generally, as I tend to obsessively check my aperture anyway. After years of screwing up aperture by accident, I tend to check it a lot. But since there's no connection points here, you can't get the aperture value through the EVF, so you have to check it by tipping the camera up. And I tend to do that a lot because it's very easy to move this aperture. But hey, if it makes it cheaper, I guess that's fine. But all things being equal, a clicked aperture would have made much more sense for the primary market for this lens, who are photographers, not videographers. The focus ring it feels nice, it feels good, it feels smoother than the aperture ring. And the build in general, it just reminds me of a Voigtlander style lens. I like these little ridges for the focus. It's easy to tell the difference between the focus ring and the aperture ring when you're feeling around, and it's nice and it moves well. My only gripe or issue with the focus ring is that you can't really trust the markings. Infinity's probably, well, it's not going to give you infinity, and it's actually not super accurate because it's so tiny, the adjustments anyway. So, and I've also read from others that the zone focus, that you cannot trust the numbers, the meters and the feet. It doesn't bother me as much because I tend to use focus peaking anyway. For manual focus, I wish I was better at judging distance, but I'm not, so I don't tend to do that. So, if that's you, if you're a zone focuser, this is probably going to frustrate you. But that's me being extremely picky for a $70 lens that's tiny, that's solid. It's a good value for your money, but if you're after a cheap lens that has good quality, or as good as you can get, and you're okay with manual focus, the only reason I can think of that you would buy this lens over an older vintage lens is the size and full metal construction. If you need something small that can take a beating, I wouldn't hesitate. Yeah, but anyway, here are a few more photos that I was able to capture with this guy. That's all I've got for you for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed this quick lens review. Remember to do some good with your cheap lenses, and we'll talk to you again real soon.